The forest of Varexis, 8 always felt strange at night. The leaves glowed faint blue, the air hummed with quiet static, and every sound seemed louder than it should be. But tonight something else moved between the trees. Something large. Something the locals feared more than storms, more than darkness, more than anything else on their world. Kalen Reed walked slowly along a narrow trail with a small light in his hand. He was a human explorer, new to the planet, and he had been told many times not to travel at night. But he was curious. Everyone talked about a creature they called the Mauling. They said it was huge. They said it had sharp claws. They said its roar made the ground jump. But Kalen had never seen it. And he didn't like judging something he had never met. He stepped over a fallen branch and kept moving. The air felt cold and thick. Somewhere deep in the forest he heard a strange sound. It wasn't a roar. It wasn't even angry. It sounded more like a cry. A scared cry. Like something was hurt. Kalen stopped and listened carefully. The cry came again, weak and soft. The locals had told him the Mauling hunted at night, but this sound didn't match the stories. It didn't sound like something dangerous. It sounded like something lonely. Kalen followed the noise. He pushed past tall ferns and glowing vines until he reached a clearing. The moonlight fell across the open ground like silver dust. At first he saw nothing. Then he noticed a shadow in the far corner. Something large was curled against a rock. Kalen felt a chill run down his spine, but he did not step back. He kept his light low and walked slowly forward. The creature was huge. Almost the size of a small transport vehicle. Its body was covered in soft scales that shimmered like smooth stone. It had long ears that lay flat against its head, and a thick tail curled tightly around its body like it was trying to protect itself from something cold and frightening. One of its front legs was shaking badly. The creature was clearly hurt. Kalen took a quiet breath. This was the monster everyone feared? This creature that couldn't even stand? It looked more like a frightened cub than a danger to anyone. He spoke softly. "Hey, I'm not here to harm you." The creature's ear twitched. Slowly it lifted its head. Its eyes were large, bright, and full of fear. When it saw Kalen, it tried to pull itself back, but its injured leg gave out. It fell and let out a small, helpless sound. Kalen's heart tightened. He crouched down, keeping his hands open so the creature could see he held no weapon. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." For a long moment the creature just stared. The forest stayed silent around them. Only the soft hum of insect wings filled the air. Then the creature made a surprising sound, a low, trembling whimper. Not a growl. Not a roar. A whimper. Kalen moved a little closer. "You're scared, aren't you? Just like everyone else. Except they think you're the danger." The creature blinked at him. It seemed to understand his tone, even if it didn't understand his words. Kalen slowly reached out and touched the ground near its tail. He didn't touch the creature itself. He waited. The creature looked at his hand. Its body trembled. Then, very slowly, it moved its massive head forward and sniffed his fingers. Its breath was warm and soft. Kalen stayed completely still. After a moment, the creature leaned its head closer and rested its nose against his hand. Kalen let out the breath he had been holding. "Wow. You're not scary at all." The creature let out a tiny sound. Almost like a purr but deeper. Its leg trembled again and its whole body shook with pain. Kalen frowned and stepped closer. "You're hurt. That's why you're hiding here." He gently touched near the creature's injured leg, careful not to cause more pain. The creature didn't pull away. It just watched him with big, trusting eyes. Kalen smiled softly. "You're just a big softy, aren't you? I can't call you Mauling. That name's too mean." He thought for a moment, then chuckled. "You look more like a Fluffy." The creature blinked. It did not understand the word, but it understood the warmth in his voice. It leaned into his side, gently pressing its heavy head against his shoulder. Kalen almost fell from the weight, but he held his balance and laughed quietly. Okay. You like that." The trees rustled behind them. Kalen looked up and saw glowing eyes watching from the forest. A group of alien villagers stood there, shaking in fear. They had followed him to warn him, but what they found shocked them. The Mauling was leaning against a human like a scared pet. The villagers gasped. One whispered, "It will attack any moment." But instead of attacking, the creature curled closer to Kalen, trying to hide behind him like a child hiding behind a parent. Kalen raised his hand to calm the villagers. "It's okay. It's not dangerous." But they didn't believe him. They stepped back, afraid the creature might suddenly snap. Kalen didn't push them. He kept his focus on Fluffy. He gently touched the creature's neck. "You're safe," he whispered. Fluffy closed its eyes and let out a soft, heavy sigh. Kalen looked at the villagers again. You all thought it was a monster. But it's just scared. And it's hurt. That's all. The villagers looked confused, unsure, but some of them lowered their weapons. Kalen smiled softly at Fluffy. Don't worry. I'm not leaving you. The creature made a tiny sound and curled even closer, like it finally found a place where it could rest without fear. In that quiet moment, Kalen understood one thing clearly. This creature wasn't a monster. It was a child. A huge, lonely, frightened child. And he was the first person who had ever shown it kindness. The next morning, the sun rose over the glowing forest, turning every leaf a warm golden color. The villagers gathered near the clearing again, whispering in fear and confusion. They expected the creature to return to its wild nature. They expected it to roar and chase anyone who got close. But instead they found something very different. Kalen sat beside the large creature, gently checking its injured leg. The creature lay quietly with its head resting near his foot, breathing slow and calm like a sleepy animal that trusted the person beside it. Every few moments, it opened one big eye to look at Kalen, then closed it again with a soft grumble that almost sounded like comfort. The villagers stared from a distance, completely shocked. One of them whispered, "Why is he still alive?" Another muttered, "Why is the creature not attacking? Why isn't it angry?" Kalen heard them but didn't look back. He focused on Fluffy's injury. The creature had stepped on a sharp stone the night before. The wound wasn't deep, but it still hurt. Kalen wrapped a soft cloth around the leg and Fluffy watched him with quiet trust. "You're doing good," Kalen said softly. "Just stay still a little longer." Fluffy let out a long, deep sigh and rested its chin on the ground. Kalen smiled. "See? You're not scary at all." That was when a villager finally stepped forward. His name was Laroth, a tall alien with blue skin and bright silver eyes. He held a long staff but he wasn't pointing it at the creature now. He looked more confused than afraid. He called out, "Human, why are you helping it?" Kalen looked up. "Because it needs help." Laroth frowned. "But it is the mauling. The monster of the forest." Kalen shook his head. "No. Just a frightened creature. It cried last night. Did you know that?" The villagers stiffened. Monsters weren't supposed to cry. Laroth looked at the creature again. Fluffy was still lying peacefully, its ears relaxed, its eyes calm. Nothing about it looked dangerous. But fear is a strong thing. The villagers stayed back. Kalen took a breath and spoke clearly so they could all hear. "You feared it because you never tried to understand it? You only saw its size, not its heart." The villagers whispered among themselves. Some nodded, some shook their heads, unsure what to think. Fluffy lifted its head slightly and made a soft rumbling noise. It wasn't angry, it sounded more like a slow, warm greeting. Kalen gently scratched its cheek and Fluffy closed its eyes again. Laroth took another unsure step forward. "It listens to you, why?" Kalen looked at Fluffy and smiled. "I think it knows I don't want to hurt it." "But how can you trust it?" Laroth asked. "Because it trusted me first," Kalen replied. The villagers fell silent at that. Trust was something rare in the wild. To hear that a monster had trusted a human first was unbelievable. Fluffy slowly sat up, leaning lightly against Kalen. Its large tail curled around him protectively. Kalen didn't seem bothered at all. He even patted the creature's huge shoulder. "There you go," he said. "You're getting stronger already." The villagers watched with wide eyes. They had never seen anyone touch the creature without being afraid. A small child suddenly stepped out from behind Laroth. She stared at Fluffy with big, curious eyes. Before Laroth could stop her, she walked toward Kalen and the creature. Laroth panicked. "No, stay back." But the child kept walking. Fluffy noticed her and lowered its head, blinking slowly. The child trembled, but she didn't run. She reached out with a tiny shaking hand and touched Fluffy's nose. The creature went completely still. Everyone held their breath. Then Fluffy made a soft humming sound and gently pushed its nose into the child's palm. The girl giggled. Kalen laughed softly. "See? He's friendly." The villagers were stunned. Laroth couldn't believe what he saw. The child looked at Kalen. "What's his name?" Kalen smiled proudly. "Fluffy." Every villager froze. They couldn't understand why someone would name a huge creature something so gentle. But as Fluffy nuzzled the child again, the name suddenly didn't feel so strange. The girl smiled. "Fluffy is cute." The villagers began to relax. Some lowered their weapons. Others stepped a little closer, wanting a better look. Laroth walked to Kalen slowly, still unsure. Maybe we were wrong." Maybe it is not a monster. Kalen nodded. Fear can make anything look like a monster. Fluffy nudged Kalen gently with its head, and Kalen scratched under its jaw. The creature made a deep, happy sound that vibrated through the ground. The villagers stared in amazement. Laroth looked at Kalen. How did you make it trust you so fast? Kalen shrugged. I didn't do anything special. I just didn't run. Those words hit everyone hard. The villagers had always run from the creature. They had spread stories, built warnings, stayed far away. But one human, one stranger on their world, had simply stayed. Fluffy slowly stood up on all four legs, though it leaned a little because of the injury. The ground shook lightly under its weight, but there was no threat in its movement. It stretched like a giant cat waking up. The villagers stepped back again, but now they were more curious than afraid. Kalen placed a calm hand on Fluffy's side. Easy, big guy. Fluffy leaned into him, gentle and trusting. Kalen turned to the villagers. I want to help him heal. But I also want you all to see what he really is. And what is that? Laroth asked quietly. Kalen smiled. A scared cub who just wants a friend. The villagers had never heard anything like that. Fluffy looked at them with big soft eyes, and something changed in their expressions. Fear became uncertainty, then curiosity, and finally a small spark of understanding. For the first time, the villagers saw the creature not as something to run from, but as something that needed kindness. And they realized something else as well. The human was not brave because he fought the monster. The human was brave because he never believed the creature was a monster at all. The loud alarm echoed through the metal hallways of Station Area 9 as Daria stepped out of the small transport pod. She followed Elric and the creature they now called Fluffy. The other workers hid behind walls and doors, watching the three of them move through the station. Some whispered warnings. Others simply stared in disbelief. Everyone had grown up hearing stories about this creature. They said it destroyed whole ships with one swipe. They said its roar could melt bone. They said its eyes could break the mind of anyone who looked too long. But now the same creature walked beside a human like a calm pet. Elric knew they were being watched, but he kept walking. He did not want anyone to panic. Fluffy stayed close to him, moving slowly so its heavy steps did not shake the floor. The creature had changed so much in only a short time. Its eyes no longer glowed with fear or confusion. Its movements were no longer wild. And when it looked at Elric, the station workers saw something they never expected: trust. Daria moved next to Elric. She tried to understand how all of this was possible. She had studied dangerous species for many years, but she had never seen anything like this change in behavior. The creature acted like a lost animal that finally found safety. Elric noticed her silence. You're thinking about why it became like this? He said gently. She nodded. Everyone thinks it's a monster. Everyone has feared it for decades. But it is acting like a scared child who just needed help. What? How? Elric looked at Fluffy's large claws as they clicked softly on the metal floor. Because fear makes anyone behave like a monster, he said. Maybe no one ever tried to understand it before. Daria did not respond. She knew he was right. They entered the research chamber. The thick glass doors shut behind them with a soft hiss. Fluffy looked around the room. It seemed unsure at first, but when Elric touched its arm, it relaxed. Daria set up the scanning equipment and activated the lights above the platform. Fluffy, she said softly, testing the name, we want to understand you. We won't hurt you. The creature slowly stepped onto the platform. Elric stood beside Daria. He watched the monitors light up with information. At first the data looked normal, but then something strange appeared, a pattern no one had seen before. It looked like a message inside its biology, something written into the creature's cells. Daria leaned closer to the screen. This can't be natural, she whispered. Someone changed this creature. Someone changed everything about it. Elric felt cold air brush his neck. You mean, someone created the monster story? She nodded slowly. This creature did not evolve like others. Its DNA shows signs of forced modification. Someone gave it unnatural strength. Someone increased its size. And someone added fear trigger responses into its brain. Elric stared at Fluffy. It sat quietly, watching both of them with wide, gentle eyes that did not match the stories told across the galaxy. Why would anyone do that? He asked. Daria scrolled through the data again. The more she studied it, the more shocked she became. It was made to be a weapon, she said. But something is different. Something went wrong, or maybe something went right. Its emotional center shows changes that were not planned. Elric looked at her in confusion. What does that mean? It means they tried to make it dangerous, she said, But they also created the ability to bond. Maybe they didn't notice it. Maybe they didn't care. But that ability is strong. It is the part that reacted to you. Elric turned to Fluffy. The creature blinked at him slowly, then gently lowered its head. Elric placed his hand against its fur. It felt warm and soft, nothing like the cold and deadly monster others described. Daria watched the connection with new understanding. This creature was made to scare entire civilizations, she said. But the people who made it forgot one thing. When you give something a mind, it can choose. And Fluffy chose you. Elric laughed softly. Maybe it just wanted a friend. But Daria shook her head. It is more than friendship. It is imprinting. It bonded with you because you showed it kindness when it expected fear. Elric struggled to accept the truth. If this creature was created, then someone out there had done terrible things. The galaxy feared something that was never meant to be free. But now it was. Before he could speak again, the door alarm flashed red. A voice came through the speaker. Team leader Daria, this is Control. You must step away from the creature. A high-level alert just came in. The creators of that species, they know it survived. Daria froze. Elric felt Fluffy shift nervously beside him. The voice continued. They are coming to take it back. Fluffy suddenly let out a soft, trembling sound. It understood something was wrong. Its eyes glowed faintly, not with anger but with fear. Elric knelt beside it. I'm here, he whispered. I won't let them hurt you. The creature leaned closer, trying to hide behind him even though it was massive. The sight made Daria's hands shake. This was not a weapon. It was a living being terrified of the people who created it. We have to move, Daria said. If they capture it, they will either destroy it or restart their project. Elric stood and placed his hand on Fluffy's arm. Come on. We'll protect you. The three of them moved out of the chamber. The station lights flickered as the alert spread across every level. Workers backed away as Fluffy passed, but now they saw something different. Fear in the creature's eyes, not danger. Elric looked down the long hallway toward the hangar. They're coming, he said. And this time, the monster wasn't what the galaxy needed to fear. It was the people who made it. The lights of Station Area 9 dimmed as the emergency power shifted on. A deep alarm vibrated through the metal floors. Elric, Daria, and Fluffy stood in the wide hallway that led toward the hangar. Everyone around them watched with silent fear. The unknown ship that had appeared outside the station carried the creators of Fluffy. No one knew what they wanted, but everyone understood it would not be peaceful. Fluffy stood close to Elric, pressing one large claw against his shoulder. The creature shook lightly. Its glowing eyes moved nervously from one door to another. It remembered something painful from its past. Each alarm sound seemed to make its fear worse. Elric touched the creature's arm. I'm here. Don't worry, he said quietly. Daria looked at the closing metal barriers behind them. If they take it, they'll erase everything. Its mind, its freedom, everything, she whispered. Elric nodded. Then we don't let them take it. But the hallway lights suddenly flickered again, brighter this time. A sharp voice crackled through the speakers. Unknown vessel has docked. All research personnel move to safety zones. Do not approach the hangar. Daria clenched her fists. They're trying to isolate us. Elric looked ahead. We move now. They hurried forward, but as they turned a corner, a group of station guards stepped in front of them. Their weapons were lowered, but their faces were tense. Team leader Daria, orders from command, the lead guard said. You must hand over the creature. They say its creators have legal rights. Daria stepped straight toward the guard. Legal rights over a living being that thinks and feels? Absolutely not. The guard hesitated. They said the creature is dangerous. Elric spoke firmly. If it wanted to hurt anyone, it would have done it already. You've seen it? You know it's scared, not dangerous. Fluffy made a soft sound, almost like a whimper, and slowly lowered its head. Its huge form looked small in that moment, like a child hiding from a storm. The guards looked at each other. Their fear began to weaken. They had never seen a creature like this behave in such a gentle way. Finally, the lead guard stepped aside. Go, he said quietly. Elric nodded with thanks and the group moved on. But just as they reached the wide doors of the hangar, the moment that changed everything began. A loud metallic scream cut through the air, the sound of the docking bay doors unlocking from the outside. A cold wind surged through the hallway. Fluffy growled softly and moved in front of Elric, shielding him with its massive body. The door opened fully, and a tall figure stepped through the fog-like vapor that drifted from the ship. The figure wore a black armored suit with sharp lines and glowing red marks. Its voice echoed through the room. So the experiment survived. The creature behind Elric froze. Its whole body went tense. Its breathing became fast. It recognized the voice. It remembered the pain. It remembered the cages, the darkness, and the commands that forced it to attack others. The armored figure took one step forward. Return to unit status. You were not designed to bond. You were not designed to think freely. Come back. Fluffy shivered violently. Elric could feel the fear swelling inside the creature like rising fire. Elric stepped forward before Fluffy could react. Stop talking like that, he said sharply. It's not a weapon. It's not your property. It's alive. Another armored figure stepped out of the ship. Humans always get attached to things they don't understand. Step aside. Elric shook his head. No. The first armored figure raised a small metallic device. The moment it activated, a terrible high-frequency sound filled the air. Fluffy collapsed to its knees, trembling and pressing its head into the floor. The sound was made to control it. It was the sound it feared most. Daria shouted, "Stop. You're hurting it." The figure ignored her. It will obey. It always does. And then something happened that no one expected. Elric didn't step back. He stepped toward the creature instead and wrapped his arms around its huge head, blocking its ears as much as he could. His voice broke as he shouted, "Hey, look at me. Stay with me. You're not alone anymore." Fluffy opened its glowing eyes. They flickered with confusion, pain, and fear. But then they focused on Elric. The creature's breathing slowed. Its shaking began to stop. The bond between them grew stronger than the signal trying to break it. Daria saw something on the device. The sound is weakening. The creature's brainwaves are fighting it. The armored figure shouted, "Impossible." But it was happening. Fluffy lifted its head. The glowing eyes turned bright, not with fear but with something new. Strength. Courage. Choice. With one heavy movement, Fluffy pushed itself to its feet. The controlling sound no longer held it down. The armored figure stepped back in shock. Daria whispered, "It's resisting them, because it trusts him." The moment felt slow and powerful. It was the moment the entire galaxy would remember. The moment a creature built to obey finally chose freedom. Elric stood beside Fluffy, not afraid at all. The armored figure stepped backward. "This is not possible. A creature like this cannot break control." Elric's voice was calm but strong. "You made a mistake when you gave it a heart." Fluffy lowered its massive body and let out a deep, rumbling roar. Not a roar of anger. A roar of defiance. A roar that said it would never return. Station Area 9 shook with the sound. Daria stepped beside Elric. "We need to get out of here before more of them arrive." Elric nodded. "Then let's go." Fluffy placed its huge claws gently on the floor and lowered its body, allowing both of them to climb onto its back. It was the moment that changed everything. Not just for the creature, but for the entire galaxy. The morning lights inside Station Area 9 slowly brightened, spreading a soft glow across the halls. The alarms were silent now. The fog from the enemy ship had cleared. The armored figures were gone. Some had retreated and some had been detained by the station guards. But the greatest change was not in the hallways or the systems. It was in the air. Everyone on the station could feel it. Something new had begun. Fluffy sat quietly in the wide center hall, its large tail curled around its feet. Its glowing eyes shifted gently as it watched the engineers and medical staff moving around, not with fear but with calm curiosity. Very slowly, the tension that had once filled the station was disappearing. Elric stood beside the creature, resting a hand on its warm shoulder. Daria walked over to them with a small scanner in her hand. "Good news," Daria said. "Its brainwaves are steady. No signs of the control signal anymore." Elric let out a breath of relief. "So it's free now. Really free." Fluffy made a soft sound, almost like a contented hum, and leaned gently against Elric. The movement made several workers stop and stare, their fear slowly turning into wonder. For so long, the station had seen Fluffy as a threat. A monster. A danger that must be contained. Now they were seeing something else. A gentle creature. A thinking creature. A creature that chose humans over the ones who built it. Commander Reinl entered the hall, stopping a few steps away from them. His face was serious but not hard. "Elric," he said, "you saved more than just this creature. Your actions today prevented a disaster." Elric shook his head. "Fluffy saved us too. We just stood with it." Commander Reinl looked at the creature. "I never thought I'd see a day where something designed for war would protect a human with its own body." Daria stepped forward. "Its creators made a mistake. They forgot that intelligence means choice. And choice means it can choose kindness. Fluffy blinked slowly as if understanding her words, and gently nudged Daria's arm. A small group of young technicians watched from afar. One of them whispered, "It doesn't look scary." Another added, "It looks friendly." Their voices carried across the room, clear enough that others turned to look at Fluffy again. The fear that once made them run was now turning into curiosity. A few brave ones stepped a little closer. Elric noticed and knelt down beside Fluffy. "They want to meet you," he whispered. Fluffy tilted its head. It remembered how everyone used to run. It remembered how those same people used to stare at it with wide, terrified eyes. But now they were approaching slowly with open hands and soft steps. The first technician stopped just a meter away. "See, can I touch it?" Elric smiled. "If Fluffy wants to." Fluffy blinked, then lowered its head gently toward the young worker. The technician placed a trembling hand on its fur. The creature let out a low, calm rumble. The technician's eyes widened. "It's warm," he said softly. The others stepped in, touching Fluffy's arms, its fur, its large claws that now rested harmlessly on the ground. Soon the hall filled with soft laughter, quiet excitement, and the gentle sound of Fluffy purring as people crowded around it. The creature wrapped its tail around its feet and let them explore without fear. Elric watched the scene with a small smile. He had never seen something so beautiful. A creature that the galaxy had once feared was now sitting in the center of a group, letting young humans pet it like an oversized, strangely shaped animal. Commander Rhinal stood beside him. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "If one creature from a hostile species can build trust with humans, then maybe peace is possible where we never expected it." Daria joined them. Everyone thought species like Fluffy's could only destroy, but now the whole station knows they can create bonds too. In the center of the hall, Fluffy suddenly stood up. The young technician stepped back in surprise, but the creature lowered its head and gave a soft, playful growl. It nudged one of the workers lightly with its giant paw, almost like inviting them to play. Laughter filled the room. It was the first time Fluffy had played in its life. Elric turned to the commander. "What happens now?" Commander Rhinal folded his arms. "We will need to make a report to the Galactic Council. But I think the galaxy deserves to know the truth. Not just about the threat but about what this creature really is." Daria nodded. "A living being who made its own choice." Fluffy padded over to Elric and leaned its huge head into his shoulder. Elric scratched gently behind its ear, making it purr loudly. "You're safe now," Elric whispered. "No more cages. No more orders. No more fear." The creature closed its glowing eyes and rested against him. The entire station watched this moment, human and alien workers alike. Whispers began to pass through the hall. If humans can bond with a creature like this, what else can they bond with? Maybe they're not as dangerous as the galaxy thinks. Maybe humans are stronger than we believed. Something new was starting. Something bigger than one creature or one station. It was a new understanding. A new connection. A new bond between species. As Fluffy curled up beside Elric, the creature finally looked peaceful. For the first time in its life, it wasn't hiding, obeying, or trembling. It was simply existing, freely, safely, and with someone who cared. Elric rested a hand on its head. "We're starting something new," he said softly. And the galaxy, watching from the shadows and distant stars, was about to change forever.